that all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others.
This is from the Creed of the Church of Scientology. Hey everybody, I'm Holly, aka the ScientoloGeek, and I want to welcome you all to part 2 of reacting to the Golden Age of Knowledge video. This was the big speech that Dave Miscavige gave back at the OT Summit in 2007. And rather than just ramble on with my standard intro as you guys know it, let's just get started with the video. So we left off right after the introduction. Here he is.
Good evening. Thank you.
Oh, we got somebody. Where is he? I just saw him. Let's go back just a second. Where is he? Where is he?
Thank you.
There he is. Right there, Mr. Cruz himself. Of course, sitting in the front row, best buds with COB.
Thank you very much.
Of course, you wouldn't miss this.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Got it. Well, thank you very much. And tonight, it really is my honor to be with you because if the reality hasn't sunk in yet, it soon will. This is the event you've been waiting for. And no, not just in terms of this OT Summit, but in terms of your past, present, and future as a Scientologist. Yet with what you're about to see this evening, there really is no need for superlatives or hyperbole.
But I think you're going to be giving a lot of that tonight anyway, aren't you? A lot of superlatives and hyperbole.
Let me just set the agenda with the most factual statements I could make. Statements containing no embellishment.
Really?
Take all else happening in Scientology, from the creation of new ideal orgs to busting off the top of the bridge.
Ideal orgs started in, 2004? Early 2000s with the Buffalo program?
And here is the crucial element for planetary clearing. Take our drive to clear this planet and the fact that we've got to move anyone and everyone onto the bridge. And tonight, we blow away the fundamental barrier to that accomplishment. Then take it through to final completion, wherein every being can traverse the full span of the bridge. And yes, there too, we blow away the fundamental obstacle to that accomplishment. For what we release tonight is not something affecting only the lower end of the bridge or merely the upper end, but the very pillar upon which literally rests the entire bridge itself. And still, there's more. Because if the first principle of Scientology is that it is possible to know about the mind, spirit, and life, then
Not, because you still have to prove the spirit. We don't know enough about the mind yet.
tonight that principle is set in stone as total fact.
No, it's not. Not in any way whatsoever is it set in stone as total fact.
For tonight's release won't just make it possible to be a Scientologist like you've never dreamed. It will provide an entirely new definition of what it means to be a Scientologist, and with an ease that defies definition. And if
So now we gotta do a bunch more word clearing, probably.
you still want more, then take Keeping Scientology Working. It's all but impossible without tonight's release. Conversely, with tonight's release, it's all but guaranteed, and no matter what the future holds, and it holds a lot, in all the years to come, we'll look back on this date as to what made that future possible. Because if we've already said it's the greatest recovery of lost tech and Dianetics and Scientology, then let's rephrase it, the recovery of Dianetics and Scientology, period.
Okay, so he said this is the date that makes the future, or something along those lines. Just remember, they are 1 year away from Operation Chinology, where a bunch of people from 4chan gather to organize protests outside of every single Scientology organization.
And finally, in terms of this OT summit, LRH speaks of operating Thetan in terms of an educated Thetan. Well, tonight is the first day of school, and that's why I say, welcome to this evening's event and golden age of knowledge for eternity.
God, that smug-ass grin on his face. It's the first day of school. What the fuck have I been doing all those Scientology courses for? Is that? No, that's not Nancy Cartwright.
Okay, of course, with the list of statements like that I just made, it had better be big. Needless to say, it is. Indeed, and as I said, that's no embellishment, no hype, and none of it intended just to create an effect. In fact,
the entire event is made to create an effect, and any of the events in the future that you make will be intended to create an effect and hype this thing up.
never has the phrase the essence of Dianetics and Scientology been more apt.
The essence of Scientology and Dianetics, after it's been revised, like, what, 6, 7, 8 times? Sounds like you don't really got the essence anymore. It's more like a homeopathic version where you dilute it with so much crap that LRH's original word probably doesn't mean much anymore.
More to the point, we come to another phrase, lost tech, wherein LRH refers to the tech people have lost in Dianetics and Scientology, meaning entire bodies of data not known or applied. In that regard, he gives the classic example of his leaving St. Hill in the mid-60s, and then years later discovering students were being told, quote, "The early material of this course and all of the material on the course and anything you're studying on the course is historical and is only background information, and we don't use it anymore." By that very statement, entire bodies of technology vanished. And while you aren't likely to find anybody making such statements today, not with the policy on safeguarding technology, it nevertheless is true. Tech lost because it's looked upon as historical. And the only reason nobody's saying it is because it's so ingrained, nobody needs to say it. Then again, LRH describes in that same lecture how tech gets lost. Quote, "Now, there are several ways that tech gets lost, and first and foremost amongst them is the misunderstood word, LRH. Of course, I don't need to explain that to any Scientologist, not if you have had the most brief introduction to study tech and how material one studies can go entirely blank with a misunderstood word. But if that's all we're talking about, I wouldn't be standing here tonight, and instead we'd just be in one big word-clearing session.
Thank God it's not one of those.
So let's expand the concept with this. What if I did sit you all down and did have you all word cleared and you did properly clear your misunderstoods? And what if I told you that even if you did all that, you would still be confused, absolutely would not get the data, and that the very tech you had just studied would still be lost to you in terms of knowledge of and application of the pure LRH data?
And that's what happens to this day, because you can word clear as much as you want. It doesn't mean the information is fucking true.
Well, in fact, that is precisely what I'm telling you. Except, and just so I don't understate it, I will add this. I don't care whether you became a Scientologist in 1953, 1964, 1985, or just yesterday, that same fact would apply. Tech entirely lost to you no matter what tech you applied to regain it.
But you did seem to care about all the people who were then stripped from their clear statuses and made to go up the bridge again multiple times, likely in some cases, just to re-reach the state of clear because it wasn't done right.
Now, how could that occur? Well, for starters, I can tell you this, the LRH datum still applies. Misunderstoods. But not to leave you hanging, those misunderstoods weren't yours, and they certainly weren't LRH's.
For the first time, the Scientologist isn't getting blamed.
So whose were they? That's where we are going tonight. And as for the complete answer, well, more on that in a moment. Because, and needless to say, it needs a bit of explanation. And in this case, the answers were so entirely hidden because the lost tech was so obviously not lost. Or at least that was the apparency. So let's return to the launch of the Golden Age of Knowledge and briefly recap what that entailed and why. To once again define our terms, the full knowledge of Dianetics and Scientology is contained in 3,000 tape-recorded lectures, 8,000 pages of text, and 29,000 pages of issues. In full, those materials total more than 35 million words, which, incidentally, is only slightly less than the Encyclopedia Britannica, as authored by some 4,000 scholars over the course of 250 years.
Because L. Ron Hubbard had hypergraphia doesn't mean his stuff was right.
But however you figure it, just as the nature of beings is complex and their experiential history vast, so the materials of Dianetics and Scientology are immense.
And, by the way, you can talk about how your work has as much more or a little less than the Encyclopedia Britannica, but at least scholars work to put that together, and not just one man quoting stuff out of the crack of his ass, especially on freaking methamphetamines, or amphetamines. I'm referring to the history of man.
And therein lay the entire basis of the Golden Age of Knowledge, because no matter how immense the materials of Dianetics and Scientology, representing the step-by-step sequential breakthroughs and discoveries in man's understanding of man, the fact is that LRH did that work to find the exact route, the direct path, so it could be traveled by you with certainty and speed. Hence, while the route could seem overwhelming, it was only because you didn't know your exact route, or more specifically, what you should study. Hence came the first plateau of the Golden Age of Knowledge, the Materials Guide Chart, providing a virtual grade chart to full attainment of knowledge.
I should try to get my hands on that.
For the first time ever, the sequential series of breakthroughs and distinct bodies of technology could clearly be seen and then understood. Then again, we blew away the first misunderstood. Not misunderstoods within the materials, but a misunderstood on what the materials were. As described at that time and now clearly delineated on the guide chart, professional courses teaching a specific subject to an exact standard, advanced clinical courses for already trained auditors, and the LRH Congresses for virtually any Scientologist, and whereby everyone can walk the development line milestone by technical milestone. So that was the first step, and lest you miss the point, since many of you have now benefited from these Congresses, which is the most important point, think back 2 years ago, because to many, the different types of materials, Congresses, ACCs, pro courses, BC, etc., it was like alphabet soup. And lacking
Dude, your whole organization is alphabet soup.
a proper guide chart, one was lucky to pick up a fundamental basic mixed in amongst the most advanced materials, luck being the operative word in terms of picking the correct material for you. Today, virtually every Scientologist knows what a Congress is, and with the materials guide chart, not to mention the materials themselves, it won't ever be lost again. Then again, as was described at the time, one could study and study and study, but doing it in the wrong sequence was like trying to ascend the grade chart in random order. Grade 1 followed by OT2, followed by New Era Dianetics. It not only wouldn't work, but you could fall on your face. The opposite side of that equation is standard tech. The exact right step in the exact right gradient produces an exact and invariable result.
No, it doesn't.
In practical terms, it tracks out like this. Those listening to Congresses while auditing routinely enjoyed a 350-point gain in OCA scores.
Okay, I still don't understand the points system for this. Wait, well, actually, I think it goes from positive 100 to negative 100. What parts of their ACC increased? That's the question.
6 times expected increase in IQ.
IQ itself is garbage.
Double the speed of progress through expanded grades in NED.
Are you doing quickie grades?
And double again the speed through OT levels. So, yes, what you might call Golden Age of Knowledge Phase 1 was an unqualified success. But let's phrase it another way. When you get the tech as LRH intended, in the exact form he intended, you get the results he intended.
You have no proof that it's how he intended it. The only thing we can say is right now it's how you intended it.
When you apply it in your life. All right, so that was the first step, the congresses. And if I didn't mention it, let's not also forget that in many instances, those lectures had not previously been available. You were either at the LRH Congress live, or you didn't hear it. And even if you were at one of those congresses, it's unlikely you were at every one of them. So no small part of recovering lost tech included just that, making it available. Or put it another way, and right out of keeping Scientology working, getting the correct technology applied consists of 1, having the correct technology.
2.
And with that in mind, let's once again return to the guide chart and look at the technology you now have. Every era of chronological development, each breakthrough building one upon another, from power of choice to games, human problems, CCHs, don't
I skipped over radiation, huh? Because it's nonsense.
40, groups, freedoms of clear, bringing order, co-audits, responsibility, dissemination, and goals and purposes. And even if there are many lectures still not released that make up part of that chronology, namely the Advanced Clinical Course lectures where LRH instructs auditors on their application and auditing, you yet do have the milestones of Scientology for every Scientologist. But there is one section of that chart I have not yet covered, and it is the most important of all. As LRH said, know your basics. They're in our very oldest books. All advances have been how to handle basics better, LRH. So yes, the basics. All of which brings us to the beginning of that guide chart and the earliest books of Dianetics through the development of Scientology.
All right, I think we're going to end off here. So we're at about 16 minutes in. We will pick this up at a later date. This series is not going to be consistent in its releases. I'll just kind of get around to it whenever I do. But I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I do once we start diving into the changes in each and every book. Again, not really much, so just hit subscribe, hit the like, comment, share, hit that notification bell, share with people the craziness that Scientology has to offer. And I will talk to all of you later. See ya.